Hi, my name is Erin McFall, and tonight's date is January 7th, 2024. And within my Psychology 1010 class, we have been discussing the digestive system in great detail. We have read some textbook pages to learn a little bit more about the overall function of the digestive system. And today I will be breaking down some more specific things that happen within the digestive system, within the enzymes, enzymology, some anatomy, stuff like that. And I also have made a study aid to help me remember and understand these things a little bit more. So here is a PowerPoint that I have created, and we can just go ahead and get started. So what we are going to start with is the discussion of the anatomy of fat absorption. So whenever we're talking about digestion, before absorption can happen, digestion must happen first. So to give a little bit of a background of what happens whenever we eat fats, the course of digestion is going to start within the mouth. Of course, we start breaking down food when we chew them with our teeth, specifically our molars. And this chewing is going to break down our food, start this whole process. Now, something that is also within the mouth is secreted by the salivary glands, and it's found in the saliva, and that is called salivary amylase or lingual lipase. This is both found in the saliva, and this kind of alters the pH within the food that we are eating, and it starts the digestion process even before it's been swallowed. So with that being said, after it is swallowed, it goes down into the stomach area where it is met with some fluid called gastric juice, which is secreted by the stomach. Within this fluid in the stomach, there is a lipase in this substance that continues this digestive process. It will digest the diglycerides and the fatty acids, which we are discussing as the different types of fats that are needed to be digested in this scenario. And after that process is done, it's going to move on to the small intestine. So the small intestine is kind of where everything gets wrapped up in this process. In the small intestines, the fat digestion is going to take place. This is helped by the finger-like projections within the small intestines, and they stick out, and they are called villi or villi. I'm pretty sure, and they are used to increase the surface area for fat to be absorbed, which we have heard something similar to this in the respiratory system with the finger-like projections, and it was also to increase the surface area. So same kind of idea, to catch on to those fats and typically just emulsify them and get them ready to be absorbed. This is all going to happen within the intestines, specifically the small intestines. To go off of that, we are going to talk about the specific enzymes that are going to help with this process. So we had mentioned a couple of them in the previous slide, but there's 5 important enzymes that help with fat absorption. The top 3 are going to be lipases, which we have discussed. So the lingual lipase, the one that is found within the saliva and mouth, and it begins the fatty digestion process, and it digests the triglycerides, which are the fats that we are talking about. Then there is the gastric lipase that is secreted by chief cells within the stomach. This also is for lipid digestion of the triglycerides. Then the pancreatic lipase is secreted by the pancreas. This is gonna come after the stomach, and it travels to the... Hi, I apologize. The app app crashed. So we're picking back up where we left off. We were still talking about pancreatic lipase. This is secreted by the pancreas and it travels to the small intestines. This is essential in continuing the digestion of triglycerides. Bile salts are then produced by the liver and gallbladder, and they target these fats, making them easier to be digested. Moving on to the short and long reflexes of the enteric nervous system. The short reflexes they don't contact the central nervous system too much. They are quick impulses that help the digestive system function. These impulses are triggered by the sensory receptor in the gastrointestinal tract, and then they send those to the intestines where the enteric nervous system is found. So the way that this was described in the textbook was kind of like this is the brain of the digestive system. All of these signals are being sent back and forth to this specific nervous system, and these long reflexes are a little bit different because they contact the CNS, the central nervous system. So the enteric nervous system communicates with the central nervous system. These reflexes are also triggered by the sensory receptors in the GI tract. But then they travel to the CNS and then they are sent back to the ENS, the enteric nervous system. And a example of this that I found that was a good example was whenever you smell food, the intake of that sense is through the nose. But then information travels to the brain, which would be the CNS, and then the reflex can be sent to the GI tract, which would be the ENS. Moving on, we can talk about the regulation of the gastric phase and its role within digestion. So the this phase, the gastric phase, is responsible for a large amount of gastric secretions. The overall role of the gastric phase of digestion would be to ensure that food is properly broken down and then ready for the digestion process. This will also prepare things for absorption through the small intestine, like we mentioned earlier. Changes in the stomach to raise pH and then allows for the breakdown of food. This all happens during the gastric phase. And there are 3 parts within this phase that make this happen. To give you a little bit of a background on those phases, there's the cephalic phase. So this is going to be before the food enters the stomach, and this is going to be controlled by the senses. So kind of like the example I just gave, this is going to be the taste, the sight, the smell, all of that's going to trigger your brain. Okay, sorry, I had to pick back up where I left off. For some reason, this app keeps crashing, but as I was saying, the cephalic phase is not going to have anything to do with the GI tract or anything like that. It's just going to be the intake of information from the senses in the brain, so the taste, the smell, it's going to trigger the brain to know that food is coming. The gastric phase is when the food enters the stomach and the gastrin hormone is stimulated, and that whole gastric juice system that I explained earlier is going to begin. And then lastly, food is fully traveled to the small intestines where the absorption and digestion will take place. The role of the pancreas and liver is also very important in digestion. As previously mentioned in some lecture slides, the pancreas and liver have important roles by producing digestive enzymes. As we learned in previous chapters, by producing digestive enzymes in the pancreas, it breaks down a bunch of different things, specifically carbohydrates into sugars. The pancreas creates the hormone insulin, which controls blood sugar levels in the body, and it works towards the digestion of carbs, proteins, and fats, while synthesizing these sugars. And the liver and gallbladder kind of work together. The liver produces bile and then it is stored in the gallbladder. This aids in the digestion of fats by emulsifying them, breaking them down, and then they are able to be acted upon by this lipase that we have been describing. It works towards the digestion and absorption of fats. So pancreas can digest carbs, proteins, and fats while also synthesizing sugars. And the liver is going to work with the gallbladder to aid in the digestion and absorption of fats. And that is all I have for the PowerPoint. And I would just like to mention that I have created a matching game. Oh, that is not it. A little matching game to get these terms in my head as a type of worksheet, and I will add that in as well. Thank you so much.